How did the Biden-Trump debate compare to the Kennedy-Nixon 1960 debates? Is David Frum of The Atlantic correct when he argues that when Biden debates Trump, he normalizes his lies and crimes? Should both Biden and Trump be seen as law-abiding citizens and ex-presidents deserving equal respect? Who won the Nixon-Kennedy debates, the first time presidential candidates were debated live publicly on television? In 1960, those who listened on the radio concluded that Nixon won the debates, but those watching on television thought that the well-rested, confident, youthful, debonair Kennedy clearly won the debate, upstaging the experienced Vice-President Nixon. Should there be another Biden-Trump debate? How can you debate a pathological liar? What should Joe Biden do differently? Should there be a vice presidential debate so the Democrats can showcase Kamala Harris? Please, we welcome interesting questions in the comments. Let us learn and reflect together. At the end of our talk, we'll discuss the sources used for this video. Please feel free to follow along in the PowerPoint script we uploaded to SlideShare, which includes illustrations. Our sister blog includes footnotes, and both include our Amazon book links. Based on the contents of the speech alone, Biden won clearly. He would have easily won if this was a true debating contest. His advisor said he was fighting off a bad cold, and he cleared his throat at the very beginning of the debate. He was not at the top of his form. He found it difficult to recover. His stutter means public speaking is always a challenge for him, a handicap he has largely overcome, but he will never be a natural speaker like Obama. In fact, his lines, had they been delivered by Obama, would have played well. But Biden just could not project his voice, apparently due to his cold. Biden was also unable to think on his feet. His bad cold seemed to dull his senses, and he could not deliver zinging responses. This was not the Biden we witnessed in the State of the Union address. Now, in the 1960 debates, the Kennedy camp was aware of the critical importance of the debate, clearing the candidates' calendar to thoroughly prepare for the debate. We wonder, did Joe Biden get sufficient rest before the debate? History tells us that Nixon kept a full calendar up to the time of the first debate, which really hurt him, but Kennedy did nothing else but prepare for a week before. We remember how famous ex-president Franklin Roosevelt, who had significant health problems, insisted on relaxing to recharge even in those stressful days leading up to and during World War II. We remember how FDR came up with a brilliant idea of assisting Great Britain militarily with the Lend-Lease program while relaxing on the presidential yacht. And FDR famously compared shipping military supplies to England to lending your water hose to your neighbor so he can quench his house fire. Now, whether America expected England to return these shot-up planes and tanks is hard to say. Many pundits said that Trump had not prepared for the debate. But in a way, Trump has been preparing for the debate for the past decade. Trump does not care about his legacy. Trump does not care about policy. Trump does not care about governing. All Trump looks forward to are his beloved rallies, where he continually practices his lines, searching for the zingers his crowds love. As John Bolton observes, Trump only cares about his ratings in his upcoming re-election campaign. In her book, An Unfinished Love Story, the historian Doris Kearns Goodwin and her husband Richard Goodwin, Kennedy's speechwriter, reminisced about serving on the White House staff in the 60s. One evening, Doris and Dick rewatched the Kennedy-Nixon debates on YouTube. Doris recalls, "After the candidates were announced, I immediately noticed Kennedy's dark suit, sharply defined against the gray background of the black and white recording, in contrast with Nixon's indistinct gray suit. Kennedy's composed posture, hands quietly folded in his lap, one leg crossing the other, similarly contrasted with Nixon's body language, painfully ill at ease, lips pursed, eyes shifting, legs splayed awkwardly beneath his chair. It's not fair," blurted Doris. "It's a debate, not a beauty contest." "What has fair got to do with it?" Dick retorted. Now, unlike Nixon, Kennedy knew that on television he needed to speak to the camera, directly to the people, rather than responding to Nixon or the moderator. Doris noticed, watching the two men side by side, the contention that Vice-President Nixon was the more seasoned and mature candidate, possessed of greater authority and capacity to lead, had vanished before the first debate was over. Trump unmistakably has a better appearance on television than Biden. He simply appears to be younger than he is. Plus, his body language was better during the debate. And his signature red tie always looks good on television. But Joe Biden's skinny, wan appearance, clad with a dark suit and dark blue tie, made him look more like an undertaker. Dick observed, a TV debate is not exactly a format for levity, complexity, or reflection. Time is short, stakes are enormous. A single serious mistake could prove fatal to months of campaigning. Style out of necessity towers over substance. Although televised presidential debates can derail campaigns, a bad first debate performance does not necessarily doom a presidential campaign. Barack Obama and George W. Bush both had bad first debates and recovered. What would be my humble recommendations to Joe Biden if he decides to debate Trump again? On the days before the debate, he should relax at Camp David with his advisors, swim some laps and ride the bike, catch up on his sleep, don't travel the weeks before the debate, make sure everyone around you wears a mask a month before, and whatever you do, don't catch another cold. Are Biden's speechwriters partly to blame? The prepared contents were great for a normal campaign speech. But a debate with a pathological liar like Donald Trump is a verbal knife fight. If Biden decides to debate Trump again, Biden needs zingers and attack lines like those composed by Steve Schmidt. The Lincoln Project fighters fight knife fights with knives, so they would be excellent consultants. And we will quote at length and comment on David Frum's short editorial in the Atlantic magazine. We can do no better. David Frum begins his editorial. The first question about January 6 was asked at minute 41. Donald Trump replied with a barrage of crazy lies, ending by seeming to blame Nancy Pelosi's documentarian daughter. Among Trump's lies, CNN later listed were these whoppers relating to the January 6th riots, though his lies were largely unchallenged on the day by the CNN hosts. Trump said that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi turned down 10,000 National Guard troops for the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, which was simply untrue, and that fraud marred the results of the 2020 election. There is insignificant fraud during an election, but there's plenty of fraud afterwards by Republicans trying to overthrow the election. The CNN hosts were far more concerned with getting through all the questions on their list than challenging bald-faced lies. Perhaps their CNN bosses, to be fair to both sides, instructed the hosts to handle Trump with kid gloves. And CNN lists the lies that Trump repeated in the debate. Some Democratic states allow babies to be executed after birth, which is a bald-faced lie made from whole cloth. But it does pass the hoop and holler test at Trump's political rallies. After all, if Trump shouts lies confidently, loudly, and repeatedly, that must make them true, right? Especially if the crowds whoop and holler. Trump also wrongly says every legal scholar and everybody in general wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. And again, these scholars are not named, and everybody does not support overturning of Roe v. Wade, including the dissenting Supreme Court justices in the Dobbs decision. We have numerous reflections on abortion from a pro-compassion, pro-doctor, and a Christian perspective. We quote from and agree with the teachings in the Catholic Catechism regarding abortion. More lies. Biden is planning to quadruple people's taxes. Biden will allow the Trump tax cuts on corporations and the wealthy to expire and increase the taxes on those making over $400,000 a year to decrease both deficit spending and fund the actuarial increases needed for Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid programs as our population ages. America doesn't pay the cost of its tariffs on China and other countries, which is another bald-faced lie that makes no logical sense. And Trump claimed that he shepherded the Veterans' Choice Program through Congress, except that he did not. And CNN lists additional Trump lies from his speech. Biden for years referred to black people as super predators. Untrue. There were no terror attacks during Trump's presidency. Untrue. Iran didn't fund terror groups during Trump's presidency. Untrue. Europe accepts no American cars. That's ridiculous. And the U.S. has provided more aid to Ukraine than Europe has. While it is true that the United States has provided far more aid in total dollars to Ukraine than any other country, 15 other countries outspent the United States by the percentage of aid to their total gross domestic product, or GDP, which measures the size of their economy. The reason is that the United States economy dwarfs the size of the European economies. You can see from the table, many Baltic countries spend 4 times more than the United States based on the proportion of total aid to GDP. Trump also lied when he claimed that the U.S. currently has its biggest budget deficits and its biggest trade deficit with China under Biden. Both records actually occurred under Trump. And what are the dangers of the both sides narrative? David Frum remembers, after asking Trump about the events of January 6th, then just to be fair, CNN moderator Jake Tapper followed up with a question to President Joe Biden. Did he really mean to imply that Trump's voters were a danger to democracy? And Biden fumbled the answer, as he fumbled so many other answers. The octogenarian president delivered a fiasco of a performance on the Atlantic debate stage. But the fiasco was not his alone. David Frum continues, everything about the event was designed to blur the choice before Americans. Both candidates, the serving president and the convicted felon, were addressed as president. The questions treated an attempted coup d'etat as only one issue out of many. The candidates were left to police or fail to police the truth of each other's statements. It was nobody else's business. He continues, it may be no coincidence that the modern television presidential debate was born at a time of national political consensus. In 1960, John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon presented a choice very familiar to viewers in the days of 3 big channels and a limited number of mass-market products. You could choose Crest or Colgate, 2 very similar products. But now we live in a very different world, a world in which the choice is much more existential, and yet we retain the Crest versus Colgate format. Here I think David Frum misses the mark a bit. Why did we have a national consensus in 1960? FDR built a bipartisan coalition to fight World War II. And this bipartisan attitude persisted until it was completely destroyed during the Newt Gingrich and Tea Party era. Also, the repeal of the Fairness Doctrine in 1987, which required that broadcasters fairly present both sides of political discussions, increased political polarization. In the rise of the right-wing nut media, including Fox News, Newsmax, Breitbart, Steve Bannon's podcast, and Alex Jones, destroys political consensus by actively discouraging Republican politicians from compromising with Democrats and encouraging political chaos. These right-wing nut media outlets lie with abandon. They are not credible news sources. And today, right-wing nut Republican congressmen would rather seek television time than do their jobs as congressmen. David Frum continues, how could it be otherwise? We live in a political culture in which some of us think the supreme issue of our time was an attempted violent overthrow of the Constitution, while other Americans think it was Hunter Biden's laptop. There are means and institutions to arbitrate those differences. That's what elections do. But television debates cannot do it, because television debates don't happen unless they get buy-in from both candidates. Therefore, television debates are designed necessarily to ratify the concept of both sides. Now, when questioned about dubious past comments or actions, Trump often simply denies they happened. For example, what was Biden's motivation to run for president? And this is what he said in the debate. Biden, what got me involved to run in the first place? After my son had died in Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again. Until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas, were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler's done some fine things. I would like to know what they are, the good things that Hitler's done. This is what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy. And Tapper, President Trump, no pushback from Jake Tapper here. Biden made up the Charlottesville story, and you see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. We have Trump on tape saying there are fine people on both sides of Charlottesville. But with a straight face, he simply denies the past. Biden did score some zingers, or coax Trump into damning responses that can be later inserted into stunning political ads. Biden, I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat. Trump, I didn't have sex with a porn star. Often when you catch Trump with his hand in the cookie jar, he first denies that the cookie jar exists. Then he denies that the cookies exist. And then he says it was perfectly fine to steal the cookies. When reminded how he said that U.S. servicemen who were captured in war, like John McCain, or who die in war, are suckers and losers, Trump simply denies he said such things. This is what he said in the debate. Trump, first of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. We have 19 people that say I didn't say it. Probably Trump is referring to 19 right-wing nut anchors on Fox News and Newsmax. Deep in the debate, Tapper asks Trump, after a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said, if re-elected, you would have every right to go after your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Well, I said that my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. Nah, it's just not true. Trump meant revenge. I mean, that's what retribution means. But Trump continues. But when Biden talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at the very highest level. So, Trump is suggesting that it's okay for him to be a convicted felon because Hunter Biden is a convicted felon? But Hunter Biden is not on the ballot. But Joe could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. This man is a criminal. Well, if Trump becomes president, we know he'll go after Biden, whether he's done anything or not. And Trump projects his lies and crimes onto his opponents with satanic skill. He says, "I did nothing wrong. We have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong." Does Jake Tapper challenge these slanders? No, he simply says, "Thank you, President Trump. Now, to be fair, let's ask a similar question of Biden." And Trump says migrants are ruining America. And let's not forget, when he descended down the Trump Tower escalator, Trump kick-started his campaigns with his comments on Mexican immigrants. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. In his speech, it is amazing how skillfully Trump suggests that migrants are responsible for nearly all of America's problems. And I'd love to ask Biden, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country. Trump also claims that millions of migrants are destroying Social Security and Medicare. More Trump migrant lies. The only jobs Biden created are for illegal immigrants and bounce-back jobs from COVID. Migrants are killing our citizens at a level we've never seen before. Migrants are living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Migrants are taking black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs. And it could be 18 or 19 or even 20 million people. Where does he get these numbers? Who knows? These are just big numbers, and big numbers sound good. Why, oh why, did Biden not massacre Trump by reminding him that he defeated the border bill drafted by a conservative Republican senator that gave the Republicans everything they'd been requesting to control immigration? Trump's speech is full of blatant, bald-faced lies. Lies about COVID, lies about Afghanistan, many lies about abortion, lies about NATO, lies about Ukraine, lies about inflation, lies about Democrats, even lies about his golf game. All lies coined to rock his MAGA rally crowds. Trump does not seek the truth. Trump seeks ratings. And David Frum concludes his editorial. This most recent debate has taught the danger of spectatorship. The job of saving democracy from Trump will be done not by an old man on a gaudy stage, but by those who care that their democracy be saved. Biden's evident frailties have aggravated that job and made it more difficult, but they have also clarified whose job it is. Not his. It's your job. Everybody who's alarmed by Trump must vote. Trump plans to destroy democracy. Biden will preserve our democracy. No other issue is more important than this. David Frum continues. Ferocious controversy will probably now erupt over Biden's leadership of the Democratic Party. We'll hear all kinds of plans to swap him out somehow. Maybe those plans will be workable, but probably not. Through the uproar, it will be important to keep in mind that this election is not about Biden. It is about you and your commitments and your values. Biden is just the instrument. Like any instrument, he's imperfect, but better an imperfect instrument than a would-be autocrat who demands a cult of personality. And it is true that you cannot throw your captain overboard in the middle of a storm and expect the ship to make it to port. Democrats need to fight with the determination of Winston Churchill in his Battle on the Beaches speech. Even though large parts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and the oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And by the way, this clip from Gary Oldman sounds even better than Winston Churchill himself. Churchill continues. If, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until, in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old. And we must remember that today, even more so in the time of World War II, the free world depends on an America that is a democracy. And we need to elect Joe Biden to show the world that the United States remains a beacon of democracy. Now we'll discuss the sources we used for this video. Doris Kearns Goodwin shares how her husband, Richard Goodwin, JFK's speechwriter, remembered the Kennedy-Nixon debates. We discussed this source more thoroughly in our reflections on the JFK and LBJ presidencies. We have two other reflections based on Doris Kearns Goodwin's An Unfinished Love Story on the momentous decades of the 60s that defined their careers. On the morning that I recorded this video, The Atlantic posted an article that also noticed how Trump blames migrants for everything. And the Foreign Affairs magazine back there is on the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is going to be another video we're going to record. Our blog includes footnotes containing the links of David Frum's Atlantic editorial, CNN's list of Trumpian debate lies, and the transcript for the debate. David Frum often writes succinct editorials that are on point. Previously, we reflected on David Frum's editorial on Ukraine and President Zelensky. The YouTube description includes a link to our PowerPoint script that we uploaded to SlideShare and also our blog. Please support this channel by sharing this video with your friends and by clicking on the like and subscribe buttons and by clicking on the Amazon links to purchase any of the books we discussed, which will earn us a very small affiliate commission. And please consider becoming a patron of our channel. Plus, we will host special discussion groups for our patrons. Plus, you can click on the Meetup or small M icon to participate in our online discussions, where we practice our future YouTube scripts. And please click on the links for other videos that will broaden your knowledge and improve your soul.